Здравствуйте! Меня зовут Иван. Сегодня мы поменяем двигатели. I'm just kidding. We're gonna change the engine on the Ural. There's engine on the bench over there, and there's one right here. We need to have this engine inside here and this engine in a garbage can. So let's get on. If you ever park your Soviet motorcycle with this engine on the side of the shop, you go in and you come out after 15 minutes and engine is stolen, it is possible. It's surprising how easy it is to get this engine out. What's holding the engine in the frame, it's two long bolts under the engine, and there's two small nuts on the top, and that's it. That's all that's holding the engine in. It's nice, it was designed like this. Even the BMW old sidecars and the motorcycles that this one is sort of a copy on also have been designed with the ease of fixing and changing the parts. I love the design and the simplicity of that engine and the entire motorcycle. All I have to do now is remove the gearbox, check the clutch, see if the clutch is better on that engine than on the one I have now. We're gonna move the electronic ignition system because this bike has a aftermarket electronic ignition instead of the old style with the pusher and the little lobe that is igniting at the right moment. All this is run electronically with the one CDI now. The gearbox needs to go to the new engine before we install it. So let's take the gearbox off and check the flywheel and the clutch, which parts are the best. We're gonna use the best part from both engines to build one that we're gonna use in the bike. It's amazing how the construction of this, I just love the construction of this bike. It's so easy. It's so simple. The gearbox is held by 3 nuts on those axles here and then 1 bolt. And that's it. The entire gearbox falling out. Just like that. Remove last bolt, and now you can remove the whole gearbox. It doesn't get any easier. This is the simplest thing ever. 4 screws. I know that this clutch is working because the bike was drivable. The only problem is the huge knock from the engine. Yeah, actually I forgot to say what's the problem and why we're changing this engine. I guess the connecting rod bearing, it's completely shut because there's a huge knock from that cylinder. So I'm suspecting the bearing on the rod. So that's why we're swapping the engine, because here in Norway, to open this, to order the parts, to change them, to fix this and put it back together, it's so expensive. It's actually cheaper to get the engine that somebody else, somewhere else already fixed, or you know the engine is working. So it's cheaper to buy used engine that works than actually fix the one you have. This engine cost about 4,000 or 5,000 Norwegian kroner. You can check in how much is that in your money. And just to open this engine will cost 5,000 kroner, and then it's repair and the parts and the time to put it back in. So yeah, sometimes it's easier just to buy used engine and just swap them instead of open them and try to fix them. You can still do that if you have a sentiment or you want to keep the number of your engine matching the number of your frame. The guy who owns this bike just wants the bike to be running again. He will be using the bike in the summer, so we just have to make it work. So I give the engine a little clean before we're gonna install it, and you can actually see a little copper time cert. That means somebody broke the thread and have to repair it before they put the new spark plug. All I have to do now is just remove the pickup coil for the signal to that one, and yeah, then we are ready to go. Also remember, when you're moving engine, adjust like breathing pipes and all the levers and whatever is on the engine, just adjust them to the same angle as you had it before, and then you have no problems fitting all the pipes and connections. For example, this one was like that, and on the old engine is like this. So just make sure you adjust everything as it's supposed to be, and then yeah, it's much better looking engine. Well, we're going to do some small preparation on the engine before we actually put it on. Like I said, we have to change this wheel in order to mount the new electronic pickup coil. Also, I'm going to drain and change the gearbox oil, because it's much easier when the engine is out here instead of in the frame. I don't know who rebuilt that engine. There are a few things I don't like, which is I don't see a gasket here on the oil filter cover. And also I see some small sweating of oil down here. We can address that if it's gonna leak, that one or that one. We can do this easily while the engine is in the frame. However, I don't like movement of this gasket and that one. I hope it's not gonna leak when we start the engine. This engine was rebuilt and never started in the frame. So I'm just hoping that it's gonna run nice and we're not gonna have leakages from the clutch side, or we're not gonna have leakages outside here, because then we have to disassemble entire cylinder head and the cylinder, and that's a lot of work. So let's do what we can while we can. Let's change the oil in the gearbox. Let's drain the oil from the engine, because we're going to put the new one as well, but we're going to fill it up after the engine is in the frame. Now, why do I drain the oil from freshly rebuilt, never used engine? It's not because I don't trust the guy who did the work. I just seen a lot of things. I don't know what oil is in it. It's supposed to be 2050. Maybe it's 1040, maybe it's 540, maybe it's... You don't know what's in it. So just drain it. Even if the people who selling you the engine are gonna tell you, yes, we did everything correctly, it's as it's supposed to be. It's not about the trust. It's just about your own peace of mind. Just do what you're supposed to do, and then you are sure that you put the right oil, right amount into the right place. I've seen many things done to engines by people, all the way up to adding coolant water straight into the engine. So the thing we're going to do now is called the marriage, and if you watch documentaries how they build luxurious car, this is very nice moment of adding the engine into the frame. But well, no, not in that case. We're going to struggle with that one, but since I have it up, I'm going to tighten all the bolts for the oil pan just to make sure I don't have to do it later. Also, I'm going to tighten all the bolts around the gearbox, I already tightened those one. Like I said, it's not about the trust, it's just to check them. And lucky for me, 3 of those have been loose. So even when you have the engine from a trusted source, check, check, and check, because you're the one who's gonna pay after that. I love those engines, they go in so easily, it's so much space. I think somebody should come up with like a competition of throwing engine into the frame from 3 meters or something. It's so easy to put them in, it's amazing. So there are a few bolts and nuts I need to tie up here. We're gonna have to tie those fake holders for the exhaust pipe. And yes, they are fake. On BMW and probably on different other motorcycles, those are real nuts. You can actually bolt them. Those one are fake. They hold nothing. They probably help a little bit with the heat. But the pipe is actually sitting in the cylinder head and it's held by this clamp and the clamp on the silencer. So there's nothing actually holding this pipe into the cylinder head. So those one are fake. Well, what you gonna do? I'm not judging. So we have to clean carbs for our Soviet friend. Okay, 68, 28 millimeter, and there's some Russian letters here. It probably says "Blyat" or something like that. Yeah, we have to clean them, and I'm not going to show you that in detail. I just want this bike back and running so we can go and test drive it, because that's the most important thing I want to show you. How the bike drives and how such a nice weather it's impacting sidecars. This is amazing. What I found inside this air filter for the Ural, it's actually a bird's nest. Oh, little birds. No, joking. This is actually an air filter made of like a plastic wire cotton, and this is what they use to filter the air. There you go. We're gonna wash it and put it back in, because that's what you can do when you have a filter made of whatever this is. After we wash it, we're gonna put some oil on it, because it's not the plastic nest that actually is catching all the dirt and dust. It's actually oil that is that this plastic is covered with. The oil is sticky and it's grabbing all the dust and small particles that are not supposed to fly into the engine. The big particles like stones and flies gonna get stuck outside here and they will never get inside. So this actually works quite okay as an air filter. So here is the carburetors for our Ural. Here is a carb I rebuilt earlier today for the DR800 Big. You can see that in different in another episode. But now we're gonna assemble those super simple, super easy, super nice carburetors. We're gonna put them back onto the Ural, and then we're gonna try to start the bad boy. the bike. I don't have a spark, so I'm gonna have to find a spark. I guess we're just gonna have to supply the plus to this ignition system. It's very simple, nice ignition system. It works by itself without any other motorcycle components. The rubbers for the air filter are badly damaged, they're cracking, and we cannot use them anymore. So either I'm going to put the cone filters here, or the owner of the bike gonna have to get them himself or figure something out, because he wants me just to make the engine work again, swap the engines and the electric parts and all the lights and all the cosmetic components. He's gonna fix it himself. So we're gonna make the cable work now just to be able to start and stop the bike. I'll see what I can do about those. If not, I'm just gonna mount the cone filters or sponge filters, and then the owner gonna do whatever he wants himself, and then we're gonna go for a test drive. But first I need to find the spark, because there is no spark on the bike. So you're gonna see me do all this work very quickly, and then we're gonna go and test ride it. Da. So I'm pretty sure I found a spark. I made the ignition kind of work just to make sort of a kill switch from that ignition. The fuel is on, let's kick it. Prime, and the other, and ignition on, I guess. Prime. Choke is on. Let's kick it. So we got the ignition, we got fuel, we got spark, we got the smoke detectors going off. Smoky smoke, but it works. Now it's time to put the rest of the crap on. Fuel tank, new fuel lines, new fuel hoses. Fill up the tank and take it for a small test drive, see if everything mechanical is okay. And then back to the owner so he can fix the lights before the weather is nice. I hope the camera can show this, because now we're going to use one of my favorite tools, which is a timing gun. It's a flashing gun that operates very simply. It needs a power source from the battery, and then it needs this little sensor that will tell us when the bike is igniting. So it will show us, it will make a gun blink in exactly the same moment as the spark goes into the cylinder. And for example, on that bike, there are marks on the flywheel that tells you when the ignition is supposed to happen. Those marks don't tell you the TDC, but they tell you when the ignition is supposed to happen. And ignition on any kind of engine, depending on the RPM, is supposed to happen just before TDC, top dead center. So the ignition needs to happen before the piston is at the top, not after, and not exactly when it's on the top. It's hard to see when this is without measuring the piston movement very carefully. That's why in the factory there is a mark on the flywheel. The flywheel is connected to the crankshaft, and there is no way it's going to move anywhere. The same, there is no free play between the crankshaft and the rod and the piston. So the ignition timing is very precise, is very well known. It marks here on the crankshaft. However, your eyes cannot catch this little moment until you flash a light in just the right spot. When you flash a light, you can see the mark on the crankcase and on the flywheel align. If it's above, if it's below, you can see the difference thanks to this little flashing gun that will flash in exactly the moment that you have your ignition. And what you do then, since we cannot adjust the crankshaft position or a piston or a valve opening or anything on a flywheel, all we can adjust is this little pickup coil here. I hope you can see this. We can move this forward and backwards, advancing and retarding the time. Depends on the frequency of the camera. I don't know, is it 25 FPS or 30 or 60, I don't know. I hope you can see it. We're going to start the bike, and then we're going to see a little mark being flashed by this gun here on the flywheel. And then we have to move the pickup coil in such a way that those two marks are in exactly the same spot. And then we know that the ignition happens in the right time. So I hope I can start the bike now and you can see the little mark. There you go. I hope it was visible on the video. There is a little arrow that is pointing to the little mark here, and it's aligned perfectly even when you give a throttle. So now we know that the timing, the pickup coil for the timing is in the right spot, so we can just tighten the bolts and just leave it like that. Sometimes you can, if you don't have a tool, you can do this with just by hearing. You can just hear when the engine is running correctly, but I just want to show you the tool. I tied the bolts that holding the pickup coil. I'm just going to check one last time if it didn't move when I was tightening the bolt, just to make sure. It's still there. I hope I can show it. So this is it. Bike is ready to be test drive it. New hoses, new air filters. They don't match. Maybe a little bit color on the seat, but that doesn't matter. Important is that they work. I couldn't fit the original because those rubbers are so damaged that I cannot use them anymore. The owner gonna have to find them himself because they're really hard to get. Yeah, the timing is adjusted. Now I have to fill up the oil into the gearbox. I fill up the engine before. So there you go. Just out of curiosity, I have opened the engine to see what was the problem. And there's one main, that's the main crankshaft bearing holder, which broke. As you can see, it's supposed to be here. That's what is holding the bearing in its place, and it just snapped. There is also lots of scratches on the bolts that are holding this disc. That's the bearing holder for the main for the crankshaft, and that's the flywheel, and it flies like this very closely, but it's scratched like hell all over, and all the bolts have been scratched. It was very hard to get them out, but it's good that we open it. Look at the piston. That's goodbye, Mr. Piston, and cylinders are badly scratched. So I'm actually surprised this engine was starting. Sooner or later this engine would stop. The crankshaft, I'm guessing the bearings, they're not very loose. There's a little bit of free play in them, but yeah, one moment or the other this engine would just have stopped. The second piston was also starting to get damaged. So like I said before, to fix that engine will cost at least 3-4 times more than just get the used engine that you know it's working. The bearing sits inside this and it stops on that one. This one fell off and it was actually flying inside here. That was the noise. And it actually made a huge hole in the crankshaft. And I'm guessing all those metal chunks that came out from this, I'm guessing they all flew all around to, they got into the oil and they did that to the piston and the cylinders. So, goodbye engine. Yes, we are here. Welcome again. We are on the gas station talking, so it's time for so today in the gas talks, I'm smart again. You got the microphone, you got the camera with the tripod, and it's a little bit better light because it's sun straight into my face. I don't mind. Today we're eating whatever this is, sweet, and of course ice cold vitamin water. So today on the gas talks I want to talk about obviously a sidecar Is it fun to have it? Should you have it? If you want to have a bike like this to commute every day in the city to work, no, that's not this. That's a 125cc scooter. If you want to have a sidecar as your only bike, also yes and no, more of no, because it depends what bike you have. If it's 60-year-old Ural, then no. If it's a brand new Honda, then yeah, why not? They're special to drive, they're special to operate, and they're special to turn. So it's a little bit more of everything. So yeah, they are special. If you already have a motorcycle and you have too much money and you don't know what to do with it, then buy me a new motorcycle lift for the workshop, and then buy yourself a sidecar. Yes, it can be a nice tool, it can be a nice gadget, it can be a nice fun as a toy, but it also can be a companion. As soon as you have a motorcycle with a sidecar, you kind of think that there is someone in the sidecar all the time with you, even if it's just extra fuel or your luggage or whatever it is. They feel a little bit more friendly than normal motorcycle, at least for me. So if you want to get the sidecar, well, you should do it. Try to avoid very old bikes like this, because usually there is a whole summer of work just to have one weekend of riding. If you want to use this as your everyday bike, no, at least not the old one. I didn't also forget to answer the questions that you asked in the comments on the previous gas talks, and I was smart again. It's all about the balance. So I'm going to try to answer those questions, and I remember them only because I have them on the paper. Phil Morrow 2446 asked about the costs of the bikes, insurance and stuff like that. The prices of bikes are in the range of from 5,000–10,000 kroner to 500,000 kroner, depends what you want. But I will give you like 3 examples. My Honda CRF 300L costs 70,000 kroner, brand new from the shop. Ural like this, you can get one in a shape like that for 25–30,000 kroner. And for example, Yamaha Tenere T7, brand new, cost around 165,000 kroner. So that's the 3 comparisons. Also for example, Honda CRF 1100 Africa Twin, that's like 240,000 kroner. So yeah, you can get the bike very cheap, you can get the bike very expensive, it's up to you. Costs of having a bike, there's also is a big range, because it depends of your bonuses with the insurance company, depend what company do you use. They all very often give you a deal here in Norway, that if you have insurance on your house and your cars and your travel and your life, they're going to drop a motorcycle insurance very cheaply just for you because you are a good customer for them. So in Norway there is a road tax that everybody who wants to use the road with the vehicle have to pay. It's about 500 kroner for very old veteran motorcycles and mopeds and snow scooters. Something else? Tractors, yeah. It's about 2,000 kroner for big motorcycles, normal cars up to 3,500 kilo. And then it's I think 5,000 or 7,000 for the big lorries and trucks. You can get the very cheap veteran bike, will cost you 5,000 kroner for the motorcycle, it will cost you 10,000 to fix it. Then you have 500 kroner for the road tax for the whole year, and then you're probably going to pay about 1,000 or 2,000 kroner for the insurance for the whole year. So it can be very cheap, but it can also be very expensive. Like for example, if you buy a brand new Honda Goldwing or Harley Davidson for 500,000 kroner and you register it on your company, then the insurance will be 35,000 kroner a year, and the bike itself 500,000. So, but it's possible to ride here in Norway. It's possible to ride cheap. It is. You can get, so let's say for a package of 20,000 kroner, you can get the nice bike ready to go, make a bike ready, buy a new tire and make some service on it if you can do it yourself, pay the road fee, pay the road tax, pay the insurance, and you can ride a whole year for, let's say, about 20,000. It's possible to go even cheaper if you, for example, satisfied with 125cc small scooter or Honda CBF 125. If that's enough for you, you can get the bike for 8, 10 in the bad shape, fix it yourself, get the cheap insurance, and you're ready to go. So the costs are, yeah, they depend on a lot. But for example, like I said, my bike was 70,000. It's 5,000 for the insurance, 2,000 for the road tax, and that's what the CRF 300L will cost you here in Norway. Javier Palolorden, I'm sorry if I'm killing this, I probably are. 2-stroke oil added into the fuel. Oh, I don't want to start a hell on the internet and in the comment section. No. My opinion, no. They designed 2-stroke to have a 2-stroke oil mixed into the gasoline or being injected straight where it's supposed to go, or being injected directly where it's supposed to go into the crankcase, or into the intake. Depends of the technology the company uses. Or sometimes you just have to mix it, let's say 2% with your fuel. And 2-strokes are designed for that. Everything is designed for that. Bearings, the seals, everything is designed to be lubricated by the oil that is added to the fuel, or it's injected to the fuel, or it's injected directly into the engine. Adding a 2-stroke oil to the fuel of a 4-stroke motorcycle or a car with the new injection system, all those sensors and everything, absolutely pointless. It will burn out before it can lubricate anything. It has no access to any bearings. Okay, the cylinder wall and the piston doesn't need the lubrication from your 2-stroke oil in the gasoline. It has a lubrication from down under, very often with a small injector of oil that's shooting oil straight under the piston, and then the piston ring scrapes it down. So cylinder is safe, piston is safe, crankcase is safe, gearbox is safe. You don't need 2-stroke oil in a 4-stroke engine to lubricate your intake valve. Come on, it's a dry valve, okay? It doesn't need lubrication. It's not going to last longer if you use it. Now, adding 2-stroke oil to very old engines like lawnmower engines or very old motorcycles like this, also no point. I don't see a point in that. Especially, like I said, if it's an injection and it has a fuel pump with the filter inside your fuel tank. They're not designed to handle 2-stroke oil being added to the fuel. So my opinion, no. Very old engines like lawnmower, old Bridge and Stratton engines, yeah, add it if it gives you satisfaction. I don't. I never did that. The only stupid thing I do is I'm adding fuel, gasoline into the diesel fuel into my cars during the winter. I just do that. They tend to start better if I do it. So that's my opinion. You can have a different one. Text24. Choose of bikes in Norway, especially enduro and dirt bikes. We have the same choice as anybody else, everywhere else. All you have to remember is that it's smaller. It's just 5 million people here. And out of this 5 million people, not everybody are interested in dirt bikes and motorcycles in general. So we got access to all the bikes. We got all Japanese brands. We got all French, Italian and Spanish brands. We got KTM. We got Gases. We got Sherco and Beta and Suzuki, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Honda. We got all of them. It's just that it's less. So for example, if your dealer has 22 brand new 300 2-strokes from Sherco, we're gonna have 2. If you want, you can order it. They can get one for you. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but nobody stores bike here like 20, 30 of them because they just don't sell. It's not a big market. There's not many people who actually use those bikes. So the market is smaller, but we basically have access to all of the brands and all the different models that you can imagine. So that is that. And the last question is from Konrad Palkowski. I'm just kidding, I can actually read it. It's Konrad Palkowski, I assume. I can read Polish, yes. Weight of the CRF 300L. We don't have a CRF 300L here. We have a Ural, which is like 350. My CRF 300L with the winter tires and all the winter equipment on it. It's 119 kilo with the empty fuel tank. So that's it. I hope I answer all the questions. Is there anything more I can add to the cost of bikes? It can get cheap, it can get very expensive. It depends what you want. You can choose. 2-stroke oil in the fuel for the 4-stroke bikes. No. Text 24, choose of bikes. We got all of the bikes we want. It's just less and less of them, and they usually expensive. And weight of the CRF 119 kilo dry with no fuel in the tank, with the winter tires. So I guess I can get even lower if I put some summer tires. The spikes weigh a lot. So going back to the gas talks about the sidecars, I'm gonna get so fat because of those gas talks. So going back to sidecars, should you get one? Yes. I have that stupid opinion that if motorcycles are a big part of your life, or are your life, like mine, everything in my life revolves around motorcycles, you should have one of each sort of a family, which is some kind of off-road dirt bike that will allow you to drive on top of that and up there. You can have a sidecar just to have it. You should definitely have a scooter, and you should have a good proper road going bike. But if you have opportunity, if you have a place in your garage, if you have money and you have time to do it, of course you should get a sidecar. They're fun. You can take 2 passengers with it, sometimes even 4. I've seen them. I've seen a sidecar registered for 3 passengers in the sidecar and 1 on the back. So you can take a whole family, and then you can add the trailer and a big window, and all you're missing is a roof and a door. So that's it for the gas talks. If you have more questions about anything motorcycle related, of course, or anything else, just ask in the comment. I'm gonna try to answer all of them like I hopefully did now. Please remember that all my answers are just my opinions, so do not go crazy about this 2-stroke deal, okay? there you go. That was fun. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. All I got left to do is to wash the bike, and then it's back to the owner. He can fix the lights and charging system and stuff like that. He wants to do this himself. Why not? You can try it. If you have a bike like this, you're a little bit more into the motorcycling than people who just use scooters to commute to work. So you might have some fun trying to fix something yourself. At the end, if you want to have a bike that you want to use every day to commute, do not buy a bike like this, especially not the old one that you have to fix, because they usually take a lot of work, a lot of time and a lot of money to get them to work properly. But if you want a project, then one of those old Russians or Chinese copies of the BMW could be fun for a winter project. You can disassemble that with your kids and have fun putting it back together. I hope you enjoyed that one. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.